Good people YouTube, I'm the Watch Idiot, and this is the last video of 2022, which is crazy to think about, but that means that now I can know for sure which watch I wore the most this year. And yeah, I just took a few days from last year to compensate for the few days left of this year. But regardless, it's just so much fun to look through the whole year, and I'm able to do this because I take a wrist shot every single day of the year. So I not only have the exact numbers for all my watches, I also get a sort of timeline of my life through watches. And this wouldn't have happened with anything else. And I've been doing this now for 5 years straight, obviously. So yeah, I can also see the progression of how things have been moving. And now after counting each day and watch manually using ancient pen and paper technology, I've got the numbers right over here. So in this video, I'm gonna talk about which watch I wore the most, obviously, and then I'm gonna get into the good numbers and stats that I've been waiting for this entire year, starting with the stats, by category, like, type of watch, Swiss versus Japanese, and then I'm gonna get into the, extra insights that I got, just about, my collecting habits, my wearing habits, things like that. So yeah, I'm excited to do this video, so let's get into it. So I guess we should do kind of a drum roll over here. And the watch I wore the most this year, 2022, was the Black Bay Pro at 58 official days as the main watch of the day. But that really isn't that surprising considering how much I love the watch. But it is surprising considering how much I like being able to time things, which I can't do with the Black Bay Pro. And I'll explain a little bit more in the next section with more numbers. So yeah, it just goes to show how much I enjoyed wearing the Black Bay Pro throughout the year. That I just couldn't get enough of it, and it just looks so good, and it's just so unbelievably comfortable. So it all makes sense. Okay, so then in the number 2 spot was also a surprise because it was the San Martin SN007 at 51 official days, and the cool thing was that the wrist time was spread out throughout the year and not just during its honeymoon phase. And yeah, say what you will, but this watch is just incredible. To this day, I cannot believe that this thing only cost $250, and yeah, I just love it so much. It was to the point where that I was considering actually buying the the OG, the SLA017 from Seiko, but yeah, those cost anywhere between $6,000 and $7,000, so maybe not. And then in the number 3 spot was the Apple Watch Ultra at 38 days. And yeah, that's just because the wearing experience and also all the features of it was just unlike anything else. Starting from the hair pull. Starting from the the way that the titanium finish looks on such a different looking case, that was incredible. And then obviously that insanely good ocean band, which just offers next level practicality, and it was just a game changer. And yeah, I just really hope that that kind of strap comes out for normal watches. That would just be so good. And number 4 is my beloved Tudor Pelagos at 30 days worn. And yeah, this watch consistently ranks in the top 5, and it's gotten the top spot obviously quite a few times as well in the past. And yeah, that's pretty incredible that it continues to hold its own after more than 5 years later. And that's even when it's competing against brand new watches during their honeymoon phases. And oh, and while we're on Tudor, my Black Bay 58 and 925 respectively got 4 and 3 days. So yeah, it makes sense why they got sold off. And to round off the top 5, the last spot goes to my brand new Seiko SPB 313 at 28 days. And this is despite it coming into the collection at the end of September. And yeah, so much of its allure is down to just that awesome case and obviously the bracelet, but mainly because it's my first ever watch with this black bezel, white dial combination, because I usually really don't like the way that this combo looks, but just here, I don't know, it just works really, really well, and I can't get enough of it. And this is more or less proven by how many days I wore a black dial watch this year, and that number comes out to 298 days, or 81.6% of the year with black dial watches. So yeah, I have my type. Then also, I just want to give one last honorable mention to the SSK SSK001 GMT, just because it got 26 days, just too short of the top 5. It's a special watch to me, and it's such a good watch, that one. Okay, so now on to the extra stats that come about from having, just a record of every single day. Like how many days did I wear, divers, GMTs, chronographs, Swiss, Japanese, things like that. And I love this part just because it gives me sort of bird's eye view of what I actually like wearing. And it helps guide me, deciding, what I should buy and what I shouldn't buy, and more importantly, which watches I should sell. So first thing I always look at is how many days I wore a watch with some sort of timing capability, like a dive watch, a chronograph, or anything really with a rotatable bezel or inner bezel in the alpinist case. Because I always say that I like timing useless things, so let's see if that's true. And that number this year was much lower than other years, mainly due to the Black Bay Pro. So the total number came out to 288 days, or 78.9%. which sounds really high, but to put things into perspective, last year, 2021, the number of days worn with timing capability watches was 92.3%, and then the year before that, in 2020, it was higher still at 96.7% of the year. So yeah, I mean, this is why I just can't get myself to buy time-only watches. As much as I love them conceptually, and as much as some of them really pull me in, they simply don't get wrist time. And actually, while we're at it, the number of days worn by time-only watches this year was exactly 0. And yeah, which, I mean, I'll be honest, did surprise me. Although I do think that that's going to change next year, or at least I hope it will. And then going on with the categories, dive watches came in at 229 days, or 62.7%, and that's if you include the Apple Watch Ultra, which I absolutely do because of how much Apple has been pushing the Apple Watch Ultra as a dive watch and a dive computer and all that good stuff over there. So yeah, and that's actually up from 219 days in 2021, and that's despite the Black Bay Pro taking up so much of my wrist time, which means that no matter what happens, no matter which watch might just take my fancy, whatever it may be, dive watches are always just going to be that rock throughout the year. And then we've got GMT, and yeah, this was very much the year of the GMT, because last year I wore GMT watches for only 33 days compared to this year at 107 days, 33.7%. Now on to the size of the watch, and I'm obviously a big fan of watches right around that 38 to 40 millimeter mark. That's my sweet spot, but I wore 42 millimeter plus watches for 136 days, which is mainly due to the Apple Watch Ultra, the Pelagos, and the SSK GMT. So obviously, despite those numbers, I still do gravitate towards smaller watches in general. The years previous, prove that. And finally, Switzerland versus Japan, and this year the Swiss had that little bit of an edge at 141 days versus 123 days for the Japanese. Although I kind of do feel like I should be giving more days to Japan, considering that the SN007 is a Japanese design from Seiko, obviously. So yeah, I guess I'll credit to them and call it 174 days for Japan. So looking at the numbers, quite a bit has changed in terms of my wearing habits compared to last year, because last year, with the channel starting up, I bought watches and wore a bunch of different watches, being sent in and things like that. And yeah, last year I wore a total of 36 different watches, which included obviously watches that were bought and sold relatively quickly, review pieces, many G-Shocks, and yeah, but very few of them were worn for an extended period of time. I mean, my Seiko SNE569 was the most worn watch of last year with only 35 days worn, and yeah, that would have gotten 4th place only this year. And yeah, this year things settled down a bit more, became a bit more normal in that I wore 25 different watches, many of which were the temporary stuff, like I said just before now. But what made me happy was to see that my top 5 watches were worn for a total of 205 days, or 56.2% of the year, compared to only 132 days last year. And this to me means that I'm really enjoying the watches that I'm wearing, and all but the Pelagos were new watches. So that means that I'm not just wearing them and instantly moving on to the next new watch, you know, which I did feel used to happen like quite a bit, you know, last year and the previous years as well. And going on with that, these new watches that I bought, each one had a very long, previously unprecedented wrist time streak after buying them. And yeah, this once again, you know, just shows me that I'm fully wearing them and enjoying them, at least by my standards. And this is quite a departure from all my previous years, which, you know, like, I mean, like the record wrist time streak was like 16 days with my Explorer 2, you know, in a row. And yeah, that record was beat 5 times this year, and starting with the Black Bay Pro, which kind of just shattered that record at 32 days straight. So yeah, there you have it. Those are the numbers as it happened this year. So yeah, I mean, if any of you keep track of these kind of numbers, yeah, put it down in the comments. It's really fun to see what other people are doing. And as always, hit the like button, the subscribe button, because you're all awesome and the channel can't grow without you guys, and it has been growing because of all of you guys and portable the incredible support that I've been getting from all of you, you know, this year. So yeah, until next year, good day.